Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing our Rambo video for the month of February. Now, I honestly don't really have a good topic for this, so we're just going to talk about the merits of romance in Battle Shonen. This is actually a pretty difficult topic. I would say that this is actually a topic for a proper video essay, so if anyone feels like doing it, please do so, and link me to the video because I think it's an interesting topic, but just off the top of my head, I think that there's some merit to romance in Battle Shonen and quite a few unmerits, reasons why it shouldn't be there. And I really wanted to look at a few different kind of shonen series and kind of decide and kind of look at them. And more than anything, I think I just want to talk about My Hero Academia and how people that hate on Ochaku for being in love with Deku are just kind of crazy. I think that's really where this video stems from. But let's look at Black Clover, My Hero Academia, and Naruto. Now this is completely off the top of my head, but I was thinking about it for a few minutes a bit ago. So I think in the case of Kishimoto's Naruto, the romance in it is fucking garbage. It's horrible. However, this doesn't necessarily stem from the fact that Kishimoto is a bad writer or that Kishimoto tries to use that whole kind of like high school sweetheart thing. However, because it doesn't really have to do with that. I think it's just that Kishimoto had very specific type of views on gender roles, very traditional views on gender roles, even more traditional than most Americans would think of traditional gender roles. He's very old school in Japan. As far as I'm understanding of it, is pretty traditional in terms of stuff like that. He really had this idea that women should really only be, wives, mothers, and doctors or nurses, whatever. I can't remember the trifecta that encompasses the female role in society. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but very much in that kind of sense. I completely disagree with all that crap. I mean, everyone should be able to be whatever it is that they want to. Some men might be better at taking kids than some women, and it doesn't really matter. Some people would prefer to stay at home, and some people would prefer to be the breadwinners. It doesn't matter. However, Kishimoto did have these ideas, and so it made the way he looks at romance in his series, in Naruto specifically, pretty bad, right? Because Sakura is the main female character. Naruto pines after Sakura for fucking ever, and for most of the time, most of the things Naruto does are in order to impress Sakura. However, Sakura is never impressed. In fact, Naruto cared about Sasuke and he wanted to, rescue Sasuke. But more than anything, the reason why Naruto went to find Sasuke after, Konoha Crush is because Sakura asked him to. Because apparently Sakura was not, she couldn't join the team for some reason. She was so distraught by the fact that her love had left her at age 12 that she couldn't go on the mission or whatever. I don't remember exactly why it is that happened, but Kishimoto is pretty bad at romance. However, there is some redeeming qualities to Kishimoto's romance, right? The way Naruto and Hinata have a relationship is actually pretty wholesome, pretty cute. However, there is still problems with it because Hinata still does fall into that kind of like very traditional gender role kind of vibe. She's very meek and very submissive and very kind of generally, just there to support Naruto. And I think in Boruto, she's actually literally just a housewife, even though she's supposed to be, a pretty good fighter once she figured out, how to use all of her Genkai, techniques. However, it is slightly better than Sakura and her weird ass obsession with an abusive boyfriend that is Sasuke, who also happens to be a deadbeat dad. So I don't know. I think it's Kishimoto is pretty rough. He's a pretty bad writer in terms of romance. And in that case, if you have romances like that, I think that there really is no merit to having them in the series because at the end of the day, they don't really provide any positive dealings or anything like that. However, if we look at something like My Hero Academia or Black Clover, we see that there's slightly better writing in terms of that. I think Horikoshi actually writes the romance between Ochaku and Deku quite well. Deku is more or less oblivious to Ochako's attraction to him. However, he is also attracted to her, and we all know this quite clearly. However, Ochako, I think, is a great character because she has a dream as an individual. She has a moment where her life is in danger, and the boy that saves her is now someone that she cares about because, oh, he saved her. And then once she learns about him and develops a relationship with him and sees that, there's something powerful and meaningful about this character, the fact that, he has been beaten down by society, and then the moment he got power, he did a whole, awesome, Spider-Man type responsibility thing to it, really is powerful. And it makes sense from Ochako's point of view, right? She's a teenager. She was in a situation that was basically life-threatening. The boy that saved her also happened to be a good person, and so she's in love with him as an individual. Makes sense. It's totally realistic-ish writing, right? It totally is understandable. And a lot of people joke and kind of harass Horikoshi and Ochako for having this idea that, like, oh, she doesn't want to, to talk about her love for him because she doesn't want to distract him from his goals and stuff like that. But, I mean, you guys realize that this is very normal teenager thought process, right? Like, this makes complete sense from a dumb teenager's perspective. Of course, she's going to be like, hey, this is probably not the right time to, talk about it because you're really struggling with this thing. You're basically going to be the next Jesus, the next freaking All Might of the world. And I respect you as an individual. I care about you as a person. I'm your friend. I love you, but I also, idolize you as a hero. I'm not sure that I can really, tell you that I like you and distract you from saving the world. This totally makes sense as a character, as a teenage girl who, has these weird extracurricular and extra, external pressures on her. So it makes sense that she would be like this. And I think people just don't understand that it's good writing and just want, like, shipping to be a thing and to happen and for authors to, recognize them. And of course, eventually they do. And if you are being honest, most of the time that, Horikoshi draws anything for the series that involves them that isn't, like, directly in the manga, it does have them in a very kind of loving kind of way around each other. And I also really love Ochako and the way that the romance around her is developed because it actually pushes her to be a better hero, right? Her whole thing is being the hero for heroes that need saving, and she exemplifies this, and she reached this conclusion because she wants to help Deku, right? Now, yes, there's some problems with the idea, a person's self-worth and actualization and everything revolves around another person. In this case, Ochako's development as an individual revolving around Deku. But I mean, it's entirely plausible. You as an individual can very many times and, relatively healthily develop yourself in order to connect with someone else or develop because of someone else, right? Like, I mean, your friends growing up are definitely going to affect your development as an individual. If you're a parent, the birth of your child is going to definitely affect you as an individual, and you're going to want to change and grow in order to provide them for them better, and stuff like that. So it makes sense, right? And honestly, if it's a romantic situation, the amount of compromise and development that you have to do in order to be able to be with a person requires a lot of personal development around a certain someone else, right? So I don't think that it's a bad thing to say, that Ochaku is directly, Ochaku's development is directly related to her love for Deku and Deku himself. I think it makes perfect sense. It's totally understandable, and I actually really like that the romance is, implied, but it never actually becomes part of the story, and it doesn't derail the story, because a lot of times that can happen. But I don't know. I think people that hate Ochako for liking Deku and for not wanting to tell him are really, kind of forgetting that this is a teenage girl, and this is a series where, all of this, 20 group of 20 teenagers are trying to save the world from what is essentially Darth Vader and the devil put into one character, right? So I don't know. I think that in this case the romance is pretty good, and romance of this sort, romantic attraction and romantic feelings working as a way to develop the characters is actually really good. And Black Clover is another example of this. Let's see, how do I phrase, you know, Asta and Noelle, because it's not exactly the same as My Hero Academia. It's kind of in the same vein. Noelle definitely develops as an individual and grows stronger in order to, you know, in order to be strong for herself, but also thanks to this interesting attraction that she has for Asta and this development of their, you know, relationship as individuals, right? Of course, in Asta and Noelle's case, it's basically completely, mostly conjecture, I think, that they're attracted to each other. But there's definitely reasons where you can see and think that, yeah, they probably like each other. But in general, I think that it makes, in that case, it's pretty good, and the way that their relationship could develop is pretty nicely done. But I guess now thinking about it like more directly, there really isn't very many times where you can be like, yeah, they like each other, not like Ochako and Deku. So maybe Black Clover is not a good example. Maybe Bleach is a better example, you know, where Orihime and Ichigo basically were always for each other, right? And I haven't read that much of Bleach, so I'm not really sure. But if I remember correctly, Ichigo saves Orihime, and Orihime kind of expresses this interest in Ichigo that she had forever. And then she joins Ichigo as one of the members of his group that go to Soul Society in order to save Rukia, because she cares about Ichigo in a more than just friends kind of way. So maybe she's a good character to kind of talk about for that. And I think they get married at some point. I'm not really sure. I can't remember. But yeah, so there we go. I think that's all there is to say about that. Basically, battle shonen romances can be good and they can be bad. And sometimes it's due to the writer and sometimes it's due to the execution. And it is what it is, but there's nothing particularly wrong about having romance in battle shonen, and there's nothing particularly good about having it. As long as it fits the story and it makes sense and it's not completely garbage, it's fine, right? And that's about everything in every type of story. So we talked about two different types. We talked about Kishimoto's approach and we talked about Horikoshi's approach. Kishimoto's was the bad approach and Horikoshi's was the good approach. And mostly I used Horikoshi's approach to kind of highlight that, hey, this is actually really good characterization, and people that are haters of this character and the relationship that develops there are really just not paying attention to the characterization of the character of Ochako, right? However, in Kishimoto's case, I wouldn't really call it due to misogyny. I just think it's his values were one way, and in order to kind of satisfy his desire to put his values in the series, he kind of messed up with that one, but it doesn't really matter. It's whatever. There's a lot of more, well-structured videos on this subject for Kishimoto specifically on YouTube, so feel free to check them out. But yeah, there we go. That's everything I have to say. What do you guys think about romance in battle shonen? What are some good romances in battle shonen? What are some bad romances in battle shonen that you guys know about, that you guys can think of? Let me know down in the comments. So yeah, see you guys later.